Okay. Happy Wednesday, everyone. Wednesday is such a fun day here at Keller Williams Mid-Willamette with leadership conversations with Laura Gleason and myself, Kristen Wilson, and Winning Wednesday. So if you haven't come to Winning Wednesdays, check it out. You want some accountability. You want to lead gen with your peers. You want to hear some great calls. You want to just have some good energy around getting productive in your business. Come to Winning Wednesday. I love that you're doing that, right? Okay, so today our topic is shift tactic 7. Actually, I have to look at it again. So it's price ahead of the market, seller pricing strategies. I love that Gary writes about the Price is Right. Little reference to a fun game show that I grew up with, probably aging myself.
It's still out there, I think. It's different hosts, right? But I think it's still there.
Exactly. It was always my dream to be on The Price is Right. And yet every single day we have an opportunity to, have our own game show of The Price is Right in this market with sellers and those conversations. And I think that this is a really important topic for today, because in the last few years, we could really just slap a price tag on the house and it was going to bid up over asking. It was just going to not take a lot of effort,
right,
and a lot of conversation to get a home sold.
Right.
So the skill for the market has changed. And this chapter really dives into both the psychology and the process of that. One of the first sections, he talks about window of opportunity when pricing a home. And I love this section. And what he means is every price that goes on the market, there's this window of opportunity of which a buyer or the buyer pool sees the home as desirable. Now, in this market we're in, that window of opportunity will be different based on price point, right, and area.
Right, correct.
As you guys know, as agents working actively in this market, nothing is the same across the board right now. Right? And so this is the time to really, really dive into numbers and really learning to be the expert in your market and in the areas you serve. So that window of opportunity is where it's believed that this is a desirable home that's attractive, that people want. Right. And that in that window of opportunity is where you really will produce your highest dollar amount for your seller. Why it's important to this conversation is if we price it outside of a desirable amount that the market would produce, that a buyer would say, yes, I'll pay that, we could miss that window of opportunity. And then comes the process of what he talks about later, maybe chasing the market.
Right.
So that window of opportunity, by the way, it's not so easy to gauge, right? We don't always know. We can't predict it in some cases. However, what are the points that we look at, right? What are the points that we discuss with our sellers so we can kind of have an idea of what is happening in their area and in their price point, right? So we're talking about comps, right, Laura?
Right.
In the next section of this chapter, and I'm going to recommend everybody dive in and read. There's no way for us to convey in 10 minutes.
Right.
We just want to hit some highlights. And it's the art of pricing and persuasion. Just the title alone, Laura, is my favorite thing about this, because there's the art and the science, right? The science is the data. But the art of persuasion and conversation is where we skill up, is where we master our skills as professionals to help our clients get what they want, get their home sold, right? It's not cut and dry. And a couple tips on that is, first of all, read this book, read this chapter, right? It lays out the way to have great conversations to help your clients make a good decision so that you can get them a buyer and you can get their home sold in the market.
Yeah.
it lays out strategies, good questions, and also there's graphs there, right? And I wanted to make a note to everyone that every single graph in this shift book is available to you as a free download on Keller Inc. INK.com.
Right.
So if you want to take some of these charts and put them right into your listing presentation, that way you can explain exactly as Gary is on the pages of this book, what is the difference between being in the market, out of the market, and ahead of the market. To me, that is one of the best graphs that he's given us and the easiest way to have a conversation around pricing right for the market. So Laura, what are some of the data points that you focus in on when you're doing pricing strategies for your sellers?
Oh, you asked me a very specific question. I have so many things I want to say. The data points, so I want to, before that's a very specific question, I want to do a little bit of bigger thoughts first.
Sure.
You know what I love about this company is that we really teach every single real estate agent out there how to be a professional.
Yes, me too.
And this chapter is full of that. So the shift book, which is the book that we are talking about, which I try to show. Yeah, it looks like this. I know because of my background, it's hard to see, but shift. There's 12 tactics in shift, and this is tactic number 7. No, yes, tactic 7.
Mm-hmm.
The first 6 tactics have really been foundational skill tactics, setting your foundational skills for your real estate career. And to me, this is where it shifts into professional skills.
Yeah.
And you talk about artistry, and I really thought about that. Like, I want to ask every real estate agent out there who's watching this, do you feel like you're a professional in this business? And let's just, when I thought about this early this morning, I thought about artistry, which they talk about in this chapter. And I thought about a professional artist, okay, who spends years honing their craft, getting really good at their medium, whatever it is they're doing as an artist. And I believe it's the same with the best real estate professionals out there, that they're artists or masters. So it's artistry or mastery. It's going from E to P, which we talk about all the time, entrepreneurial in your business to professional in your business. And this is the chapter that really sets you apart. If you read this chapter and really take to heart the skills that it's recommending in this chapter that you work on and practice and hone your skills, it's going to set you apart and you're going to create mastery in your business.
Yeah.
And part of that, which goes back to the question that Kristen asked, is when you think about pricing strategies and doing comparable market analysis, what do you focus on?
Yeah.
And I will say that I believe that is part of your mastery that you need to focus on. I don't care what the market's doing. The market's always moving. It's always shifting. Okay. Sometimes it's going up, sometimes it's going down. Right there, it's never a flat market. It's always shifting. So you need to know your market stats in every kind of market. And so that's not just something that you do now. And like you said, Kristen, the last few years, we put a home on the market and it sold itself for the most part. There wasn't a lot of skill or mastery involved in that. Now, there was still skill involved because it was a very quick process. And so you had to have some skills around getting things lined up very quickly. Now you have that opportunity in this real estate career. This is a lifetime career, I hope, for you, to create mastery around your skills because things aren't lining up so quickly. And so you need to study the markets every single week. You need to know your stats. You need to know, are they going up? Are they going down? Which price points are going up? Which price points are going down? And you need to keep track of that and put it somewhere in your computer, in your database where you're keeping track of it every single week, so that when you do sit down to the table with your sellers, you have those stats that are in your presentation. You keep your presentation current, which is part of what they talk about in this chapter. And you can say to them, yeah, you're right. A year ago, this is what the market was doing. That is not the market we're in right now, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. We're in the market that's current. And my job is not to just put your home on the market. This is one of my scripts in my listing presentation. My job is not just to put your home on the market. My job is to help you sell your property for the highest price possible with the best terms in the time frame that works best for you. So we used to say in the quickest time frame. Well, sometimes quickest isn't what works best for the seller. So our job isn't just to put their home on the market and figure it out. Our job is to help them get it sold in that window where the most buyers are going to look at it. And that's when we price it right so that we have more people looking at it. And that is a practice, you guys. It's a skill you master. It's mastery around your statistics, around the market data, around the comparables every single week. And so for me, that's a huge one in this chapter, that you are really moving into an artistry or mastery in your business so that you can serve your clients at the highest level possible.
So true. I love that you said weekly stats, because that's exactly where I was going with it. In fact, I'm going to share a tool that's from Maps. It's proprietary to Maps.
Oh, great.
Maps Coach, so I can share it with our office on what and how to track weekly. I'm going to give a couple tips, and I'll put it later in the comments. I'll put the link. But here's the thing: in the market we're in, as I said earlier, it could vary neighborhood to neighborhood. It could vary, it will vary city and area and county to county. It will vary price point to price point. So take the bulk of what you serve and break those down in tabs on the sheet I'm going to send you, so that you can be tracking micro shifts in this market that could impact you and your seller, right? The micro shifts are the ones that we're not generalizing in this market, right? I heard this Monday, and it was so true, was that we haven't had a shift in our market. We've had several shifts in 4 years.
It's true.
Several shifts.
Right.
Now, certain price points have experienced different changes, and certain price points are still killing it, right? From multiples. We still have low inventory, right? And yet we're still seeing price reductions. It's a very fickle market. So as the expert, as mastery, that's one of my tips to recommend. The other thing is to get really good at asking questions. And I think we've talked about this before. There's great questions in this chapter if you're looking for resources to practice asking questions, and then use the comps as a strategy for pricing with your clients. Call it a strategy session. When they're part of the conversation and collaboration, they have a higher level of buy-in. When they can self-discover that their home features aren't as good as house A, B, and C, and they're in that price range, they realize what they are and are not competing against.
Right.
Make it a strategy session, and that takes a little bit of the pressure off you. And one of my favorite scripts, I think Michelle had shared it, maybe, I don't know, on the last panel, but I know we're having a listing panel tomorrow, so this is going to be a great conversation.
Yes.
Is that, the good thing about this market is we know right away. We know right away. Either we hit it or we did it, and the feedback for the price comes in the form of the buyers either showing up or not, or the offer. The actual feedback is offer or not. Right? So you'll know right away. Take what you've learned, take what you've experienced these last couple months in the changes, and start to let that dictate how you're changing your conversation and your pricing strategies going into your appointments. Really, a great pricing conversation is just setting up great standards and expectations with your sellers as to what they can expect in the market we're in.
And I always add to that when I'm talking to my sellers, we need to put ourselves in the minds of the buyer. I do the same thing with my buyers. I say to my buyers, we need to put ourselves in the mind of the seller. And that way they start thinking about it becomes more of a sales transaction versus an emotional I'm getting rid of a house with memories and all that kind of stuff, into transactionally, what will the buyers be thinking right now? If there's 5 or 10 properties priced lower than mine that are pretty much the same price or the same, specifics as mine, then I'm overpriced. And if you get them to start thinking in the minds of the buyer through your stats and through what you're sharing, that helps them self-discover so that they can pick the correct price, because we're their trusted advisor. So in the end, they're the ones that pick the price, right?
Yeah.
And Kristen, you know what's beautiful about this whole conversation? And I want to use this word, confidence. By knowing your stats, okay, and by studying your craft, which is real estate, by studying it, being a student of it, understanding it, knowing it, and then being able to sit at the table and share that with your clients, really what your clients are looking for is confidence.
Yeah.
And you'll have that confidence if you do your homework.
Yeah. Yeah. When you put attention and give the due diligence, it's time and practice. When you have the conversation with the seller, yes, your confidence will be there. Guess what? Theirs will too.
Yeah.
The other thing is,
Yes.
and I'll just tell a quick story. I know we're a little bit longer today, but back when we had the last shift, we met with sellers up front and gave them a pricing strategy that they passed on.
Mm-hmm.
And let me tell you, and I have very specific one, it was a luxury listing, right? And she just knew her house was worth more than what we were saying and what we were pricing at. She was a for sale by owner. She kept it on the market. 6 months later, she called us, and guess what? That home had dropped significantly, a couple $100,000. And she said to us, I wish I had listened to you 6 months ago.
Yeah.
Right? We don't want to see our sellers experience that pain. Now, how many buyers are saying, I wish I bought 2 years ago? How many sellers are saying, I wish I sold when you talked to me 2 years ago now, right? Now, that's a good story, because then you can say, hey, in 2 years from now, if we don't sell at this price point, I would sure hate for you to be disappointed that we didn't get it under contract today.
Right.
I just need to know you're going to be okay with that should the prices change dramatically, right? They haven't yet, and that's the good news, right? We're still seeing great equity for our sellers. It's a great market. Everyone take some time, master the art of pricing your homes. All right.
Love it.
Yay.
Awesome. Bye, everybody. Thank you.